and Americans think schools in their communities are not safe from gun violence, according to last year's PBS NewsHour. As the United States marks 2 years since a deadly shooting at Robb Elementary School, Texas, when 19 children and two teachers were killed, support for controlling gun violence has hit its highest level. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving technology space. And I'm your host, Priya Deolani. Now, most US adults feel their local schools are safe from gun violence. But from Newsport News to Denver to Nashville, the number of communities affected by shootings have grown, and also the sense of unease as well. But thanks to technology, now we can combat this concern. How? Today, we have Brian Sathianathan, co founder, Chief Technological Officer, and Chief Digital Officer of AI, who will talk about how the technology can ensure a safer school environment. Hi, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Priya. Thanks for having me. We're quite excited to speak to you and to your listeners.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast. So let's start telling our listeners about your organization and specialization. What exactly is a problem that it's trying to solve?
First of all, our organization is called Iterate.ai. We are an AI drag and drop platform for large companies, large enterprises to use AI and to begin to build applications 17x faster, right? Because as the AI revolution is upon us, senior leadership and most business leaders want to get solutions out to the market soon. As a part of our platform, we license the platform to the industry. But in addition to that, we also have several applications that we have built on top of the platform, which we also license. But some of our applications we also have open sourced for the greater good of the community. In fact, at the very beginning, what you were mentioning, the weapons detection or the threat detection system was a system that was built on top of our Interplay low-code drag and drop platform, which actually looks at camera. So think about, when you have a camera attached to a school or a public place, there will be somebody monitoring it in the monitoring center, right? But here you are using AI as an automated eye to look at the video feed that's coming from the camera and to be able to detect weapons, knives, and anything that's of threat. And then it can use whatever the current notification system that's already in place inside the school environment, and it can notify the teachers or whatever the escalation hierarchy is.
Great. I think that's quite interesting, Brian. And I think you spent a long time and years developing the threat detection technology just that you just helped us understand, and so that it could scan a gun like entering a proximity. So could you also tell us more about your role and contribution towards the company?
Yeah, my role is I play the chief technology digital officer. So I kind of have a dual role. One of the roles is basically working closely with customers, essentially identifying the challenges and running the profit and loss for the software platform. But at the same time, on the other side, is working closely with engineers, looking at current technology problems and looking at how do we use technology like artificial intelligence or generative AI or large language models and vision models, and how do we solve very complicated problems, and how do we bring a solution that is cost effective as well as usable to the market, right? So that's kind of the role that I play, sort of that middle role between the industry and technology.
Right, definitely. I think you explained it pretty well. Moving ahead, I think guns are the leading cause of death among American children and teens, and 1 out of 10 gun deaths are aged 19 or younger. And since the shooting at a Columbian High School in 1999, more than 338,000 students in the US have experienced a gun violence at school. Now, I believe you have recently open sourced your threat awareness technology. So, could you tell us more about this technology and the reason why you made it open source?
Yeah. So originally, when we started, it was a part of our platform, and we were focusing on essentially protecting private companies from gun violence, especially places like convenience stores and various retail locations are often attacked at night at gunpoint, right? So we ended up building a solution for a customer need, and then very soon we started to realize it could serve a greater purpose in the school and in the public arena. But as we started talking to schools and other places, we realized that they do have a lot of, blockers for purchasing, as well as the purchasing process is very lengthy, and they also have financial difficulties in terms of scaling the solutions. Due to all these challenges, we decided for the greater good, for we want to release an open source version of the software so it can be used by public organizations at lower cost, at absolutely at no cost. Of course they will have some cost in terms of their IT teams setting it up and running it in their own systems. But we want to expand the technology for the greater good, and what we really encourage a lot of people is to try it themselves and set it up. And then we do have documentation on our site, and in the past we've had quite a few organizations trying to bring up the system by themselves, and they've approached our teams for help, and we are helping some of them as well.
Great, glad to listen and hear about some interesting advancements that you guys have been doing. But alongside, I feel the advancements in artificial technology have completely transformed the landscape of physical security. For example, empowering a security personnel to perform with greater efficiency and effectiveness. Now, when we're integrating these advanced AI-powered solutions into the video surveillance system, the security staff can maintain a constant vigilance over the entire premises without a need to monitor screens round the clock, which was earlier quite a problem, and that would also drain the productivity. So when you're talking about schools, how do you think that AI will play an important role in making schools safer?
Yeah, I think AI will have a critical role in making schools safer, because AI is looking and learning all the time. Because when these type of incidents happen, it's very hard to predict when they will happen, right? And also notifying the authorities at the right time, notifying the teachers at the right time, so they could do the lockdowns. So you need to have a system that's constantly watching. And I think that the role of AI is AI will sort of become that protective eye that's helping you to watch when financially limited, constrained organizations like the public schools and other other institutions, they don't have the manpower or the security guards to hire to do this type of monitoring. AI will play a vital role to complement that need, right? But yet provide the security. And I think it's also a lot has to do with education, where learning people, as the staff, the administrators of schools and other public institutions, learn about the benefits of this, and then they really learn about how do we how something like this protect, and then think of ways how they could enhance it for their own schools and their own public institutions. Because that's one of the reasons we open sourced it too, because it's very hard for us to build a system that satisfy everyone's need. So the benefit of open sourcing it, you're sort of seeding the market with a solution, and it gives the freedom for the different companies and the different institutions to modify it and take it and kind of run with it, right? So we believe that in the long run, what we did would motivate several players in the industry, not only just us as a technology company, but several other technology companies to do the same, but also to build schools and public institutions, non-profit organizations, to really build upon this, right? Because once you start something, you expect a community to build around it, and the community could essentially start getting better and better over time. And I think AI will begin to build a player a vital role in school security going forward.
Right. I think I very well like the point where you spoke about creating awareness and helping people, everyone involved in schools, not just children, but also teachers and other professionals, to help them understand what is the power or the role of AI and how it can actually help making schools safer, and also how they can leverage these tools effectively to even perform their day-to-day activities or increase operational efficiency of the schools. So I think that's very important, because that can become one of the hindrance in terms of adopting these solutions if you're not aware and you don't have the necessary skills and knowledge about these solutions. Um, Now, moving ahead, I think any possible steps should be taken to enhance safety in educational settings and protect students from all forms of violence. Now, I think that's where AI video analytics can help. Like you mentioned earlier, it can be utilized to detect fights and any other form of aggressive behavior, which can foster more campus security and also intervene promptly and minimize eventual consequences. So could you also share some of the real world applications of your the open source threat awareness technology and also its success metrics probably?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that currently, I mean, it's only been a few months since we open sourced it. So we have seen, companies and me like non-profit organizations downloading it and trying to use it, and also reaching out to our teams asking for help. We've seen a few government and police departments reaching out to us as well, asking for help, and trying to see how they can take this to the next level, which I think is good early indicators or early signals that I would say that shows that the need is real, and then we can begin to help some of these things out. And we are also beginning to set up some teams from our side to even though it's an open source, sometimes these newer technologies will need a little bit of hand holding. So we are setting up some engineers from our side to help through such a hand holding process as well, right? So that's something that we are already on the process of doing, and we've started doing that. I think you know generally, I think AI alone, I mean, not just only weapons detection or threat detection, but in addition to that, AI alone, I mean, can help enhance human productivity much better. I mean, for example, we have a platform where you could go into a drive-through system and you have a restaurant and you can order completely using your voice, and that you are speaking to a large language model instead of a human. So sometimes this will free up the human worker to work on, because most of these drive-throughs are understaffed, right? So if use cases like that we are supporting using our platform. So that's another great example of how AI can help. We also have a new product that we are bringing to market called Gen Pilot, which allows you to search all the documents on your enterprise systems, but using generative AI. So you could answer questions much more deeply and much more succinctly, but on your own content, your documents, your images, right? Things like that. So there are series of solutions that we are bringing that's all enhancing productivity for the enterprise, the public sector, as well as we all of us as individuals.
Right. One quick follow-up question, Brian, would be you have open source technology and it's quite recent. But when you introduce the technology, what was the response of your target audience? Were they like, oh yeah, hey, this was something that we really needed because we need something that can enhance security, or they had like, no, nah, I think we are fine with our human security team and we really are not keen to invest in any technological solution. How was the response of the target audience?
No, the response was positive. In fact, once we open sourced it, we had a lot of people interested in bringing up the open source system. So there is definitely a deep interest in using the open source. So it's a very, very positive interest, because the benefit of an open source is, the barrier to entry is like almost zero, right? As long as you have a powerful computer system that can run AI models, and a little bit of understanding of the Python language, you should be able to bring the system up, right? And then we have fairly good detailed documentation enabled as well to make all these things fairly simple, right? So that's why I think we had lots of inquiries on our website. People, several folks inquired, a lot of people showed interest. There were a lot of follow-up questions, so we are seeing good experience from the community. And also, since it's open source, I mean, we also don't know, I mean, after how it's being exactly used, because unlike closed source, we can't monitor them, right? That's one of the benefits, because whomever is taking and using it have the full privacy in terms of how they want to use it, and the freedom.
Right, definitely. I think after open source, the adoption rates are definitely going to go higher. And I was just keen to know, as to what is the how people look or view this technology in terms of adopting and using it in the day-to-day lives. Now, when we're talking about an active shooting incident, I think relying solely on a large security team may not be enough. Now, for example, human monitoring has limitations such as fatigue, short attention span, making it very impossible to provide continuous coverage for all areas. Now, when we enter or bring this technology, I believe that no event will go unnoticed. Being able to identify threats and to be able to contact authorities immediately and automatically can, of course, save time in responding to the situation and allowing concerned authorities, like probably the police authorities, to arrive on the scene quicker. Now, to create such a cutting edge solution, do you have any partnerships or collaborations that you have formed and to support the implementation and adoption of this technology? And if you could share that, would be great.
Yeah, currently, I mean, because we are in early days of this release, and we are just like measuring what's happening in the market in terms of the of how many people can bring systems like this up and running, right? So currently, we are in its early stage, but I think what we are really interested in is to also to partner with various non-governmental, non-profit organizations, or even organizations like local police departments or others who would like to bring this to bear, right? And also schools as well. In the past, we've done some partnership announcements with companies that are doing notification systems, right? Because all these schools have very I mean, not all of them, but most of them in the US do have some form of a notification system that's installed in the school. And because of the notification mechanisms, and there is a good set of rules that I establish in terms of escalating or routing a given incident, right? So partnerships with companies that do things like that is also important to us as well. So those are areas that we are looking at in terms of partnering with. And then also we've been approached by other security companies as well in terms of if how they might be able to roll this solution out. So partnerships and partnership strategies around this is sort of yet to be revealed. Yeah.
Right, right. I completely understand. And I think that's like a continuous process where you keep on evolving and probably your partnerships also keep on evolving. Now, on the flip side, I think when we're talking about artificial intelligence or the use of emerging technologies, a data privacy risk for using artificial intelligence or the facial recognition biometric system is the accuracy and bias of the data and algorithms. Now, facial recognition biometrics are not infallible and will produce false positives, false negatives, or misidentifications. These errors can also have serious consequences for the privacy, security, and as well as citizens' civil rights. For example, you may be wrongly accused of a crime or denied access to a service or discriminated against based on your biometric features. Now, these are some of the common references that I've come across when I was reading about these technologies. So, I just want to understand how does your threat awareness technology ensures data privacy and security. And I think one of the ways is probably complying with the data regulations. But how do you also align with the other requirements and objectives of these regulations?
See, at a higher level, I mean, end of the day, the right way to do it is because even though a lot of these technologies are still in its early inception, even though it's been around for the last few years, they are still at the early part of their adoption cycle, right? Especially when using it among the public in a place where there will be drastic consequences. What we have done is we've actually included a human in the loop process. So, like when it notifies you of a threat, along with the threats, the still images that it captures will also be notified. So there is always a human detect ability to make a detection, right? And you also have the ability to train out people who are staff and others, right? So there is methods to do that. I think the human in the loop, I think initially, but it's not possible for all systems. But for a threat type system, I think a human in the loop definitely can be helpful. And also like give as much information as to a lot of times when AI systems do detection or prediction, it's very hard. The AI systems don't give the reason why. But in a vision system, it's much easier because you can actually give corresponding images as to why something happened, right? Why was the threat alerted, right? So that the person, the human, could make the right decision in terms of further escalations.
Right, quite makes sense, definitely. That was one of the challenges that I wanted to talk about. The other thing is that the adoption. Now, for example, when scanners were introduced, independent school safety consultants warned about the effectiveness of the scanners and have called for more data about the effectiveness. Administrators also complain of long lines at the scanners, error messages, and false alarms that detected the weapons of mass instruction, for example, like Chromebooks. So, what other challenges do you face in the overall industry or at the company level, and how do you plan to intend to overcome them?
See, I think at least for the weapons and the schools, threat detection and the schools, I think since we've open sourced this, we are also going to be very soon open sourcing the actual data that was trained to train the model as well, so others could begin to build and train it more and more and more, so that the community would begin to build the models and get better. So that's one of our plans in terms of opening everything up for the community, not only just the trained model but also the data that is used to train the model, right? I think we generated about like close to 60,000 odd data, some 20 something like hand created, another few thousands that are like synthetically created. But as we are opening up the data, then it becomes way for the community to begin to also build upon that, right? So that's one of our goals. We haven't opened up the data yet. We've only opened up the model so that the community themselves could begin to train it by themselves, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of these things begin to we believe, because with an open sourced product, we believe the community to build up on top of it as you learn through. I mean, the false detection, even in our system today, you do have false detection. False detection is a very common problem, right? The goal is to minimize that and also to put the right guardrails. So when false detection happen, it doesn't get further escalated and it doesn't continuously happen. The times where it happens reduces, right? So those are the type of things I think over time as the technology gets better. I mean, if like interestingly, like when we first started like a few years back, we have to put a lot of R&D into doing more accurate detection, right? But over time, in the last 6 7 months, the kits that have come, the computer vision kits that have come by themselves out of the box are fairly good at what they do, right? So as we see, like the technology is improving a lot faster, and for us to move from our older technology into the newer kits wasn't that hard. So as time passes, things are going to get better and better and better, right? It's when you start something, it's always hard, but as the technology improves and matures and catches up, things get better and better. And I think that's what's going to happen in the schools. I mean, maybe the scanners that don't work today will begin to work soon. And I think the buying process and the tendering process and all those things are very complicated in public institutions, right? So that also makes it much harder too, because by the time you have finished requirements and you are trialing some solution, the solution is already outdated, right? Because the technology has moved on, right? So those are some of the problems that especially you have in like very large institution with very complex buying processes. So you may end up with a scanner that is 2 years old in technology because that's how long it took to evaluate and make the purchasing process.
Right, right.
That's one of the reasons we decided to open source it, because we want the citizens to take it and start using it, right? And keep on
Yeah.
enhancing it and not limited buying processes and all the complications surrounding the technology flow.
Right. I think, yeah, when it comes to saving life, it's very crucial that and critical that we take every opportunity to make a change. And with changing times, it's also very important that the solutions and systems also mature and evolve. Also, like addressing with the challenges of each solution and ensuring that we are overcoming them gradually. One last question for you, Brian, and what do you think would be the future of AI in the security landscape, and how would you like to align your company's growth?
See, I think security is critical, right? I think from a weapons detection and threat detection in school, I think we are probably going to contribute more to the open source, right? I don't know whether we are going to. I don't think we have a strategy specifically to build commercial software in that space, because I think the open source will benefit better. But now on the AI in general, security for AI, I mean, we provide a drag and drop. Think of it like a Lego platform, right, to build AI solutions. We will begin to add more and more security features in them, because I think as we go through security attacks and cyber security robustness for AI is going to be super critical, right? Because today, if you look at it like the most of the firewalls and organizational security systems don't necessarily protect attacks against AI, because though the attacks against AI are attacks on models, right? And most firewalls will pass those, they will all look like legitimate data. But so as we are thinking about, building next versions of our and releasing next versions of our low code and AI runtime platform, we would love to enhance more and more security capabilities into the platform.
Right. I think, in the light of the growing global concerns surrounding gun violence and the unfortunate increase in active shooter incidents within the education institutions, I think there's a very urgent need for innovative safety solutions. Now, whether it's through training, hiring security professionals, or integrating security technologies, no single approach can guarantee a complete prevention. But I think by combining all these measures, we can significantly reduce the risk and mitigate the impact of such incidents. And again, AI powered visual weapon detection looks a very promising solution that enables precise firearm detection and delivers timely alerts and actionable intelligence to first responders. And it also ensures that they can act swiftly and effectively in critical moments. Now, all of this ensures that you're taking a proactive and an effective approach in addressing the issue of active shooter incidents and making not just school safer, but also ensuring the safety of every individual that is probably within the educational premises. Well, thank you so much, Brian. It was a pleasure talking to you. And it was definitely a very a new topic that we discussed our podcast today. It was a nice conversation that we have. Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Likewise, it was a pleasure, and thank you for all the great questions. And then we're definitely, excited and interested to see how this will unfold among the community.
Definitely. So this is for our listeners. Stay tuned for our upcoming podcast, and you can view all our recent and previous podcast on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.